So I didn't learn this new thing totally on my own. I saw other YouTube videos of people doing it, but they were doing it for different reasons. In one case, some guy actually was doing it on his dev, but for some sort of melee, like pure damage build. And then the other guy was actually on a pyro. He was using it to increase his resistance piercing even more, because he had the one where armor piercing increases your resistance piercing. So, oh yeah, no resist. I'm using that too, obviously. But it's the tier 1 mod where every time you shoot and reload, when you reload your gun, see, what I thought initially is that it, which is why I didn't think it actually did anything. I thought initially how it worked was that your first shot hits the dude with like 50% armor piercing increased. What I don't know is how it's worded is actually, no, it increases your actual armor piercing stat until you shoot or switch weapons. So I'm like, what? So it really is, if you're not doing anything, a permanent increase. And you'll see when I did this change, this is me changing out my skill tree because I was doing that before. I'm like, oh wait, no, I want to get not using protection skill. I thought about switching Boulder Dash for Golem, by the way, and going like Perseverance and Golem Squad. So I'm also further helping my team a little more with the Golem Squad. But ultimately, I'm like, I would do that also if I were to only play like this. If I were to play this broken. 0.2 seconds. By the way, I increased armor piercing in my skill tree more. And I put on the reduced cooldown on Boulder Dash just to see if it would go even lower, but it doesn't. So that's so 0.2 is confirmed now to absolutely be the lowest. But basically, so my plan now on this guy is I'm going to actually, I eventually wanted to get, I scrapped the Animway a long time ago, but I do actually want to get the Animway on my secondary for Moaning Winds, Radiation Splash, maybe one day Clip Combustion on Apocalyptic Gear, because that's the only one that has armor piercing on it. The Guillotine doesn't, so I need all my guns with armor piercing. Which is the only reason I really am not using the secondary period right now. But when I do, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to do the same thing, but put it on my pistol, which would actually be a little better because my pistol reloads faster. Because obviously with this, you kind of want a fast reload gun. Because sometimes you mess up, you just shoot once after you hit the dude, especially lag can cause that. Also, for my aims, it's because what I learned, I tried doing this and only doing this, and it was fun initially, but then it also can get boring, and also it's just, what I learned, at least for my build, and I still want to remain a super tank, like I still want to have as much health as possible, all that stuff, in case, you know, I get silenced, which would really wreck me now, or in case, you know, for whatever reason, lag, frozen, whatever. It still happens, so it's like much more rare on this dude now than my other classes, because he's just flying around, evading everything constantly. But still, like, I still want to be that super tank. And by doing that, I was actually doing less damage by just only doing, yeah, it increases my resistance piercing another 50% too. But, yeah, I was clearing a lot of expeditions at roughly the same speed still, but what I do know is I do less damage against elites if I'm only doing gravity leap. Like, my whole thing of, like, alternating, or I mean, I'm mostly gravity leaping, boulder dashing, and then still just popping off an occasional shot on my gun to activate all 3 of those mods, especially since they're, like, long damage over time ones. That was working best for me for doing the most damage against, like, bosses without any ads around them. Marshall can actually destroy bosses too if I just target the dude next to him, which I sometimes do, and I don't even need it anyway, but still. Like the final boss in this game, you have none of that, so you really do need to do something like that. And also just to have more variety, because honestly, it's like I said, it gets kind of boring too when I'm just only doing it. It's one of those things where it's both fun and boring. It definitely feels busted. Like, I won't lie, I feel now finally like this is game breaking. And, you know, I might get nerfed for sure. That's also, though, why I wanted to make the changes I said, because in my view, if they were to ever nerf this, it would either be to just make this mod not do what it says anymore, or just nerf the cooldown in some sense. The thing is, even if they do that, assuming it's not as insane as it is, because I feel like in order to make it insane, they'd have to like basically make Gravity Leap a useless skill if they make the cooldown ridiculous, or they'd have to change the Pax Tree node itself so it doesn't do this cooldown based on armor piercing. But then it kind of, I mean, the Pax Tree after that kind of complements it. Like it would just ruin an entire setup that they clearly wanted to have, essentially, in the game. So I have a feeling that that the heavy-handed nerf probably won't come, but I feel like something like that would address it, and if it does, then I already know what I'm going to do, because honestly, if you look at this build, even if I had a 3-second cooldown at all times on all my skills, I would still be happy, and I would put Weapon Leech back on my pistol, so that I have a, you know, a really tanky mode, because this guy has a Weapon Leech buff in his tree, and if I put it on my pistol and use damage over time once, he can get a ton of healing when I need it. So I would just do that then, and then definitely use the Anim Way, because then I would actually be able to use my guns a little bit more, and just cycle again, just exactly what I'm doing right now, and I'd be totally fine with that. But for now, since it is like this, it's like, well, I'm going to find a way to make this build. I don't want to design the build too much around it, though, because what if they nerf it? Damn it. I don't want to make my build just only about that tier 1 mod, because it's a very good chance in the future it might just totally get scrapped, or, you know. And also, like I said, I'd like to have variety. That's why I still have double jump. Double jump is useless when I'm doing it, of course. But even when I have a 1.3-second cooldown grav, like double jump is still useful for what I do, because then I can instantly pop 2, shoot once, get those mods, and cast Endless Mass if I can. Just add another debuff and go back to it. Or if I'm on a boss and I can't do Endless Mass, then Boulder Dash. And also pop a shot between. If I have money wins, I would just be switching, you know, every like split second I'm on the ground and just activate it and go back to the other one. You know, it would work perfectly. But yeah, this guy is, so that's my plan now for this guy, but just to show you, it is totally busted. Oh, and one thing I wanted to say at the end of the video, I tested statue set build in battle, and the weapon leech buff does not work. So statue set is still busted. Even they nerfed it, and yet it still doesn't work. So it's even worse than you think. The weapon damage on it does work. I noticed that when I was getting hit, it was still working. What I did is I was tanky enough to just go straight into battle, you know, pop Golem on, pop Tremor off, and just go into my inventory and just see what my stat is while I'm there, you know, in battle. And if I was getting hit at all, or actually I tested it, and even now it just doesn't work, period. Like, it gives you like 2% weapon leech, not 15%, and that's it. That's the number I would see the whole time. But the weapon damage does work on it. But yeah, the leech doesn't. So I wanted to say that too. Statue set is still useless. I still have, the thing is, I made a build with it though, and it's still a build I want to keep in my backhand in case, you know, they totally ruin this build. I don't, like I said, I really doubt they're gonna, if they make any changes or nerfs related to this build, I don't think it would ruin it, because like I told you, I could easily go back to 3 to 4 second cooldown. Now if it gets 5 or up, yeah, then I might reconsider, and then go maybe statue set if they, you know, make it work for once. Or use, I'm trying to get the new melee thing for the dev. I just don't have all the pieces, but eventually maybe I'll try and make a melee build, see how viable it is for my own sake, because again, I don't want to go straight anomaly power and everything. Not for me, but yeah, I still want to get max health. Oh, and by the way, in the boss fight now, the main boss, this makes it so much easier, because now, you saw in my last video how I just destroyed the final boss and he didn't get a chance to get a move off. Sometimes he does, and especially if you're carrying people, and now this just makes life even easier, because whenever he's doing his Super Saiyan mode, all I gotta do is just switch to my other gun. And by the way, whenever I'm switching between guns, I make sure I shoot one time. Before I shoot one time on the gun that I have that tier 1 mod on. That way, when I return to it, I don't have to, it's quicker. I just reload without having to shoot and reload. So I just reload when I switch to it, and I'm good to go. Got, you know, no cooldown now, gradually. But anyway, final point, like the final boss for Target Guitar, is that whenever he's doing his Super Saiyan max damage axe throwing thing, I'm like, this makes it even easier, because then I just switch to that gun. I do what I'm doing before, like I said, because it does more damage over time against bosses. But then I just switch to that gun, just